The air inside the terminal was thick with the scent of roasted coffee and anticipation. Flight 302 to Geneva was boarding, and travelers lined up beneath glowing departure screens that hummed with impatience. Among them stood Naomi Carter, a calm, graceful woman in her late 40s, wearing a navy trench coat and a silk headscarf that framed a quiet confidence. She wasn't rushing like the others. She held her documents neatly in hand, passport, boarding pass, and a worn leather briefcase that had crossed more borders than most people ever would. Her poise drew subtle attention, but it also drew something else: suspicion. Behind the counter stood Lauren Mitchell, a flight attendant with perfect posture and a tone sharpened by habit. She scanned passengers one by one, her smile more mechanical than kind. When Naomi reached the counter, Lauren's gaze flicked upward, and for a moment, something cold passed between them, the silent prejudgment that Naomi had seen 1,000 times before. "Good morning," Naomi greeted softly, her accent lilting, polished, and warm. Lauren's reply came clipped. "Passport, please." Naomi handed it over without hesitation. Lauren flipped it open, her eyes pausing at the name, the nationality, the dark cover embossed with a seal she didn't immediately recognize. Her brows furrowed. "Where did you get this?" Naomi blinked. "Excuse me." "This passport," Lauren said, lowering her voice. "It doesn't look standard." "It's an official diplomatic document," Naomi explained calmly. "You'll find my clearance code on the second page." Lauren forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Right, I'll just have to verify this with the supervisor." Passengers behind Naomi shifted impatiently. The line had stopped moving. Naomi stayed still, shoulders straight, her voice steady. "You can, of course, though I assure you everything is in order." Lauren leaned slightly toward another attendant, whispering loud enough for nearby travelers to hear. "She says it's diplomatic." Her tone carried an unspoken skepticism that rippled outward. A few passengers glanced over. One man pulled out his phone. Naomi could feel the shift, curiosity mixed with quiet judgment. Lauren's words grew sharper. "Ma'am, can you step aside, please? We'll handle this once we've verified your documents." Naomi's eyes softened, but there was steel underneath. "Is there a reason I'm being singled out, Ms. Mitchell?" The attendant's smile faltered. "It's just procedure." "Is it?" Naomi asked gently. "Because I've flown this route for years and I've never seen procedure look like humiliation." Lauren hesitated, caught between authority and unease. She raised her hand toward security. "Sir, can we get assistance here?" The hum of the terminal quieted as a uniformed officer approached. Naomi exhaled slowly. She'd experienced moments like this before, when dignity became a test rather than a right. The officer, young and overly formal, stopped beside her. "Problem, ma'am?" "Not from me," Naomi replied, eyes steady. "Only from an assumption." Lauren crossed her arms. "She's presenting a suspicious passport." "Suspicious?" Naomi echoed, her tone feather-light but cutting. "That's quite a word for something issued by the United Nations." The officer frowned, glancing at the cover again. The faint gold emblem reflected under the fluorescent light. Too official, too real. He hesitated. "Ma'am, if you'll just wait here, we'll sort this out." Naomi nodded once. "Of course." She stepped to the side, standing tall, composed. Around her, whispers grew. Some recorded. Some looked away. The woman who had built peace agreements across continents was now reduced to a scene at Gate B-27. Lauren returned to the desk, muttering to her colleague. "These people always have an excuse." Naomi heard it, every word. She didn't flinch. She simply reached for her phone, typed a message, and waited. Minutes later, an older man in a dark suit walked briskly toward the counter. His badge gleamed under the terminal lights. The air shifted again. "Is there an issue with Ambassador Carter's boarding?" he asked, his voice firm. Lauren's head snapped up. "Ambassador?" "Yes," the man interrupted. "Special envoy to the Human Rights Council. She's traveling on official assignment. And this," he lifted the passport from her hand, "is not for you to question." The color drained from Lauren's face. Around them, silence pressed in like gravity. Naomi said nothing. She didn't need to. The officer muttered an apology. "Ma'am, you're clear to board." Naomi took her passport back, her expression calm but unreadable. "Thank you. I hope next time professionalism boards with courtesy." She turned, walking toward the jet bridge. Each step echoed louder than the terminal noise, not because of anger but because of grace. Behind her, Lauren stood frozen, replaying her own words, her own tone. "Where did you get this?" The question now sounded smaller, uglier. Passengers whispered. Someone murmured, "She's a diplomat." Another said, "She handled it better than I would have." Lauren's supervisor approached quietly, voice tight. "That video's already trending. You might want to prepare for HR." Lauren's throat went dry. As Naomi disappeared down the jet bridge, a single thought lingered in Lauren's mind. How easily respect can vanish when judgment comes first. But what happened mid-flight would turn quiet shame into a public reckoning. One that would change how the world looked at both of them forever. The aircraft cabin hummed with the low rhythm of engines and quiet conversation. The world below had already turned into clouds, but inside, the tension from Gate B-27 hadn't lifted. Naomi Carter sat by the window, hands folded over her briefcase. She wasn't angry, and not outwardly, but her silence had gravity. Across the aisle, Lauren Mitchell adjusted her uniform, her every movement stiff with the memory of humiliation. She'd been assigned to the same cabin section as Naomi. Fate, it seemed, wasn't finished teaching lessons. Lauren approached slowly, trying to bury her discomfort beneath professional politeness. "Would you care for something to drink, ma'am?" Naomi looked up, her gaze calm but unflinching. "Water, please." "And no, ma'am. My name is Naomi." Lauren nodded, nearly whispering. "Of course. Naomi." She turned to pour the drink, her hands trembling just slightly. Every time she passed another passenger, she could feel eyes following her, the silent witnesses from the boarding gate. Some of them had recorded the incident. She'd already seen flashes of her own face on screens as people whispered. As Lauren handed Naomi the water, Naomi asked softly, "Tell me something, Ms. Mitchell. How long have you worked in aviation?" Lauren hesitated. "Almost 7 years." "And in that time," Naomi continued, "how many passports have you questioned because they looked different?" The words landed without sharpness, but they carried weight. Lauren opened her mouth, closed it again, then whispered, "I was just doing my job." Naomi's eyes didn't leave hers. "Your job is to ensure safety, not to strip dignity." "There's a difference." Lauren felt her throat tighten. For the first time, she had no defense. Just then, the captain's voice broke through the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, a special acknowledgement this evening. We are honored to have Ambassador Naomi Carter with us on board. She's en route to Geneva for the Global Peace Accord Summit." Every passenger turned. Lauren froze, her heart thudding. The announcement wasn't meant to humiliate her. It was routine for diplomatic passengers. But in that moment, it might as well have been thunder. Naomi smiled faintly, eyes still fixed out the window. The world beyond the glass glowed in soft orange light, the sunset stretching endlessly. A little girl across the aisle leaned toward her mother and whispered, "Mommy, she's an ambassador." Her mother smiled. "Yes, sweetheart. And a kind one, too." Lauren stood motionless, realizing how public perception had just reversed. The woman she'd treated like a suspect was now the face of authority, the very kind she had tried to perform. A few moments later, Naomi pressed the call button. Lauren approached again, nervous. "Yes, ma'am. I mean, Naomi?" Naomi handed her a small business card. "If you ever want to understand what bias looks like from the other side, I'm conducting a workshop next month in D.C. for airline staff." "It's not a reprimand, it's an invitation." Lauren blinked. "You'd want me there?" Naomi's tone softened. "I'd hope you'd want to be there." For a long second, neither woman spoke. The hum of the engines filled the silence between them, not as noise, but as reflection. Lauren nodded slowly. "I'll come." "Good," Naomi said, returning to her book. That's how change begins, not with shame, but with awareness. The rest of the flight passed in silence. But this time it wasn't the cold, uncomfortable kind. It was thoughtful. The silence of understanding settling in. Hours later, as the plane descended through dawn clouds over Geneva, Lauren stood by the exit door, greeting passengers as they disembarked. Her professionalism had returned, but something in her eyes had changed. When Naomi reached her, she paused. Lauren swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, Ambassador, for how I spoke to you. I thought I was protecting the system, but I realize now I was protecting my assumptions." Naomi's smile was calm. "Apology accepted. But make sure the lesson doesn't stay in the air. Bring it to the ground. Lauren nodded, tears threatening to rise. I will. Naomi placed a gentle hand on her arm. Then this flight wasn't wasted. As Naomi stepped onto the jet bridge, cameras flashed from the terminal window. She ignored them. She wasn't there for spectacle. She was there for purpose. Outside, as morning light washed across the tarmac, Lauren watched her walk away, small in stature, enormous in presence. For years, Lauren had believed that authority came with a badge, a uniform, a protocol checklist. But now she understood. Real authority was how someone carried their silence when the world got loud. She looked down at her hands, the same ones that had doubted, accused, dismissed. Then she looked back up at the horizon where Naomi disappeared into the dawn. The intercom buzzed faintly again with the captain's voice, final and poetic. Thank you for flying with us. Sometimes the shortest flights teach the longest lessons. Lauren closed her eyes and whispered to herself. Yes, they do. Some lessons don't arrive with turbulence. They land softly, in conscience, in humility, in change,